I'm Greg Casar. I currently represent Texas's 35th congressional district, and I'm here to speak to support the hundreds of thousands of Texans that I represent and their voting rights, from urban to rural Texans, conservative, liberal Texans, from Bexar to Comal to Hays to Travis County. Texas's 35th congressional district was drawn by this body coming after the 2010 census. It was constitutionally mandated to be drawn, and it was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court and the conservative justices on that court as a promise to Latino communities in Central Texas to make sure they had meaningful participation and the ability to elect the representative of their choice under the Voting Rights Act. Whether they chose a Democratic or Republican or independent congressman should be up to them. But to fulfill the Voting Rights Act of 1965, this district was drawn and approved. And what I am here to ask is that we continue to preserve and protect those voting rights that so many people fought and marched and bled for, including Dr. King, where we have a street right behind this Capitol named after him, who in 1965 helped a Texas president sign the Voting Rights Act into law. And I ask each of you to focus on protecting those rights. There's no need to redraw these maps and to violate those rights, and to represent the values of Texas and to represent that critical federal law, and not have somebody tell you from outside of the state, from Mar-a-Lago or from the White House, to violate those basic rights of all Texans. We should be focusing on rebuilding and relief for the people of the Texas Hill Country who have suffered from these floods, not on radical and ridiculous redistricting. Thank you so much, Chairman.
I know we were joking about it, but this is kind of a serious matter in that, our discussions about the only way to do what Donald Trump and the DOJ is suggesting that we do is to make everybody's maps look like that. Could y'all tell us how difficult it's been representing essentially areas that are like 100 miles apart, and what that would do to your communities Congresswoman Garcia and Castro, like if your communities were paired with a community that's 100 miles away, that's an hour away, how would that affect your communities?
Representative, thank you so much for your question. It's critical that these maps be drawn, and that maps be drawn to have compactness and to keep communities of interest together.
Right.
We've done the very best we can, despite, like I said, representing rural areas, suburban areas, two different major metropolitan areas, to bring people together and have folks know that they can call us. Just like you all, we field thousands of calls from folks that don't have a partisan matter in mind, but just want to make sure they get their back pay from the Army, or they change their address and need to get their Social Security check, or are looking to make sure they get the proper veterans benefits. And all of a sudden, whether you are redrawing the districts for a Democrat or a Republican, if suddenly you are drawing a map that has somebody going hundreds of miles away to another area, that could really complicate things for our constituents. And that's why I echo the urging of my colleague, Congresswoman Garcia, that I think that not just the members of Congress, but the people of Texas deserve to see a map and be able to come and testify to you on a map, because they want to be able to contact their member of Congress. Some of these things are make or break for a person and their bank account or their life or their job. And I think many of my Republican colleagues, I'll tell you, have told me privately that they are deeply concerned with a map being drawn without their input, without the input of legislators, without input of their constituents, because you could draw all sorts of crazy maps that ultimately disenfranchise those constituents, because they may have no idea which congressional district they're in, because the person across the street has a different member of Congress and the person up the block has a different member of Congress. And I would just really hope that you all recognize your responsibility as legislators, just as we try our best to do, to say you should use your independent judgment on whether the people of Texas are getting adequate representation, or if you're just being handed a ChatGPT map being handed over to you from somewhere else in the country.